focus has been recruiting and hiring coaches. In the hiring of the coaches, being great teachers, great men, and great recruiters is a priority. So we'll continue to take our time and make sure that it's the right fit, the right ones for the players on this football team and for Georgia Tech. As we really finalize the rest of the coaching staff, then we'll move into the support staff and address those areas as well. But again, this is about the signees that we brought in, that we're able to bring in, that will be here. Some of them mid-year, some of them in the summer. And like I said, a good mixture of high school and transfers. We're excited about them, and we want to really be able to talk about those guys today moving forward. So, with that being said, I have some questions now. Really starting with the recruits, focusing on the recruits, and then after we get through with those questions, we'll any other questions I'll answer.
Kelly?
Obviously, as an O-line coach, O-line's been very important in developing, naturally through your own high school ranks has been kind of a priority thing I think you've realized as well, dealing with the portal. Can you talk about the guys you signed on the offensive line and kind of your expectations there?
Yeah, as a group, we brought guys in that we felt like could develop in the program, like you said. We wanted to bring in high school guys that were going to take their lumps and their bumps early, be able to have them for an extended amount of time. The ones we brought in, they have good length on them. They have size. They have the things that you really look for when you're developing, offensive linemen. The thing with the O-line that I am, the most happy about, when you look across, I don't know if I have them in order here as far as the offensive linemen, but Elias Cloy, going down the list, Gabe Fortson, Ben Galloway, Ethan McKinney, and Patrick Screws. All of those guys were either in camp here, worked with in camp, had a chance to work with one-on-one in the summer, have seen at practice, basketball practices, football practices, and all those things. So, it's exciting to know that you've seen these guys, you know what their strengths are, you know what their weaknesses are that we need to work to develop. So as they come in, it's not just something you watched off of a 15-minute highlight tape or game tape that you still might have questions. Haven't actually been able to put our hands on these guys and see them in one-on-one situations and see them move through drills. I think that's an added bonus, and that's where we want to move through our entire roster in recruiting. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Aaron Joe coming back and being back in the fold here. Joe back there in the back. And Aaron has a great plan overall. Me and him are 100% on the same page of how we go about the recruiting process and the evaluation of our players, and then once the evaluation is completed, into the development. But being able to have these guys on campus and have them in camps over the summer, being able to see them on the road and evaluate these guys is going to be a huge part of the process moving forward.
With the limited number of scholarship quarterbacks, how important was it to get Haynes King signed early and in here for spring practice and especially with Zach Byron coming off an injury, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I think we talked about it a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, and in that time, where I thought Winky might be able to go into a game, at this point now he can't at all. I mean, he's really declined in the last month or so, where Chris, I thought he at least had the arm still. He couldn't run. He can't throw it from me to you. So we had to go out and get somebody, and we did. We feel like we've addressed that need. Again, continue to move forward. And with the way the early signing period is, that's what it is. It's an early signing period. So there's still a lot of time out there. But be able to get Haynes in, and a guy that has experience in games, playing in games. And I think the key to that room is building that room so there's relation with the guys in it. There's not a difference in style from the guys in that room. So you start to build across the board, and they complement each other, the strengths, the weaknesses, and you build accordingly that they become the fit to the offense you're going to run.
Okay.
If I could follow up on something, you mentioned the importance of seeing those linemen in camp or watching them practice. Had that been maybe not something you'd been able to do previously, or something that you want to emphasize more to be able to make sure your coaches have eyes on guys like that?
Yeah, I think it's super important to be able to have eyes on guys and see them live. If you see a deficiency that they might have, you can continue to work with them and see if they can, work through it, or you can, coach it up, or if it's a strength and conditioning deal. But yeah, in the past it's been an issue. I mean, for 2 years, no one was able to go on the road. No one was able to come on campus. So, still kind of some repercussions of the, coming out of the COVID years, where you weren't able to do that. as much as you would like. So, now moving forward, that is something that'll be in the process that we do and make sure it is. You would like to sit up here and say every single person you have has multiple layers of evaluation. Not just seeing, a game tape, not just seeing them at a camp, not just seeing them at a practice, seeing them play other sports, seeing them do different things, seeing them, weightlifting in their high school. You want to build multiple layers in that evaluation, and then the evaluation is not just a one-time thing. It's not just a watch a tape one time or, grade a kid one time. There's multiple layers in it, and sometimes it starts as early as freshmen and sophomores, moving into seniors or up to their senior year, where that's where the most important part of the evaluation is. The evaluation can't take place, okay, we like him, this guy fits for us, and then you forget about evaluating him, because things do change. Kids get, they do develop. That still happens nowadays. Young kids get bigger, they get stronger. You see sometimes kids have a lot of notoriety or success early on, and a bunch of people come, they're being recruited. Well, then how do they actually handle that going into their senior year? So that's all part of the evaluation process that we'll continue to incorporate moving forward.
Obviously, you lose Ace and Charlie, and you've brought in 2 transfer linebackers and also signed some. Can you talk about just how you're kind of addressing rebuilding that room now?
Yeah, and that was one of the main positions of focus in how to rebuild the room, how to build it, from the start. Because what you can't do is bring in transfers where you need immediate help, and you talk about the one-year guys. So you bring in guys. Number one, when you bring in a one-year guy, the evaluation's got to be, much more than just the physical evaluation on a player. You've got to actually, that becomes the character evaluation. How are they going to fit in? Are they going to be accepted by their teammates in the room? Do they have that sort of persona, and they can walk into that locker room and people will gravitate to them, and they'll gravitate towards others. So that was an important part of that when you're bringing in 2 older guys. All right, the second part of it is being able to backfill behind them, because if you get too top heavy in one part, well, now, as we all know, it's going to be every single year you're trying to do that. So, we wanted to be able to build that room, but space those guys out. So you've got older guys, you've got middle, kind of the middle management guys in there, and then you've got the young guys that are the freshmen coming in. So, again, the thing about the transfers that's changed so much, it allows you to address immediate needs right away. But you still have to build a football team for the long haul. So when you're developing a football team, you're developing a team to win, and to win as soon as you can. But at the same time, you're not going to forsake that for year 2, year 3, year 4. So you got to have there's got to be a process, and there's got to be a way of doing things, and you can't change. You can't say, well, I'm going to now make an exception here, an exception there. You got to have a plan. You got to stick to it. Believe in it.
You added 2 defensive linemen in Dixon and Pugh from Alabama. What did you see from them when you evaluated them?
Yeah, and that's a position that you always will be looking until the very end. You'll always look for those guys, for defensive linemen. You want big, strong, physical, tough guys. But you also want guys that have high character. They've been at winning programs. They know what it means to work hard. They'll fit into the culture of the guys in the locker room. So, but yeah, you want size, you want strength, you want a good first step getting off the ball. Guys that use their hands well, guys that have some mass in their lower body that can hold the point of attack. And again, with any position that you recruit on the defensive side, and one thing we've stressed a lot, and this really goes back to what Aaron has brought in and really focused on, is you don't just recruit players, you recruit players that fit in the scheme. And, it's one thing to say, well, this guy's a great defensive end. Well, how does that defensive end fit into the scheme you run? Are you running with 2, pass rushing type guys, or do you need one pass rushing guy? Do you need one hold the point bigger guy that you can use? So all of those factors go in, and we've got to continue to do. And I think Aaron's done a good job of putting everyone on the same page and holding everyone accountable with this, is recruiting to your scheme. What are you looking for in safeties? What are you looking for in inside linebackers? What does the nickel Sam player need to? What are the traits of him? Is he more a safety, or is he more a linebacker, or is he more a corner? So really, all of those things are encompassing on how you look at the evaluation.
You had the 30 kids coming in from Texas A&M. I'm curious if there was a story there about how maybe Chase was the first to come and help bring the others, or what kind of, was there just a coincidence, or how would you kind of?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. There was a relationship there in the beginning. Then he started. One of them started talking to the other, and to be honest, the third was not even in the conversations of the other two. So, and it was by chance, ended up happening. So there was not a plan to go out and say it was. These three guys, they're best friends, they're roommates. It wasn't like that at all. It was actually kind of bizarre. It was crazy how it happened. That some guy on the defensive side and then a couple guys on offense, all of a sudden they're talking and you're going there, you're going, hey, we're all there together, let's do it. So, it was 100% coincidence that played out like that.
Coach, just curious, your first, I guess, signing day press conference as the head coach, the full-time head coach. What has the process been like for you the last couple of weeks of recruiting as the head coach? And what is your pitch to, whether it's a transfer or a high school student, to come be a part of this program here at Georgia Tech?
Yeah. Well, the difference when you recruit as the head coach, you got one shot. You got one shot when you're in front of them on the road. You get one trip to the school or to the home. It's not where you go out week in and week out and you have 2-3 trips in a row to the house. So you're not building a story and then someone else coming in and closing that story, closing that book. You're the one that's coming in and really closing the book and making the final pitch or the final sell. So that's the biggest difference, being the head coach as far as being an assistant coach. The other thing with it, there's been several guys I'm out on the road and you get ready to head out of to leave the field house or the coach's office, and all right, man, well, I'll swing back by next week, or no, I'm not. So those guys that you've seen on the road several times for 15, 20 years, once or twice, you're not doing that. So you're not seeing those people. So and that's why we guys that love to recruit, and it's getting out, it's being around people, it's the relationships. So you realize pretty quickly that you're only going to get that one shot a year to be in those places. So you got to make the most of it. As far as the pitch is different with transfers and with high school kids. What the sell of the program and the school is the same, but really how you're getting there is different. The conversations are different. You're talking about guys that have already been through the freshman year. They've already been through some of the mistakes and pitfalls that you have as a freshman and a sophomore in college. A lot of those guys have done that and they've learned from those mistakes, and they're on a totally different end of the recruiting process. It's not going out and seeing the shiniest meeting room or the biggest this or that. It's truly more of a business decision for them, because majority of them aren't going to be doing that again. It's kind of a final go-to for them. So the conversations between those two audiences are extremely different.
Can you talk a little bit about how you ended up with Cooley and kind of how he fits in as a running back, and obviously a guy with some experience at a position where maybe you needed one more guy with some experience to bring in? Yeah,
again, it goes back to like we talked about with the linebackers earlier. You're building your roster one position group at a time, and each one of those position groups, you want a wide range of guys. You want, from whether you have a senior, sophomore, freshman. You don't want to all be clumped up in one area, in one spot, because then like I said, it's year in and year out becomes the same thing of having to rob Peter to pay Paul, and we don't want to do that. So being able to find a mix of guys, classification-wise is important, but also experience-wise. You want guys that have experience, and then with that room, there's certain backs that we look at, certain type of backs that we want to fit into the offense, the offensive scheme. But you want a guy that can be a multiple type player. You want an every down back. You don't want just a first, second down back all the time, or just a third down back. You want a guy that can play all three downs and not have to come off the field. And you're not getting into that game where you become predictable when you're pass blocking and or free releasing a guy or running a certain type of toss play or inside run. You want a guy that can do it all, and I think Trey's one of those guys that can do all of it.
You secured the signing of Trey Seymour Some schools were looking at him as a linebacker. Do you see him as a guy that can maybe play nickel, strong safety, that type of thing?
Now, you see him. I mean, he's a back end guy. He fits in really well to what we do with our safeties in the scheme of our defense. Our safeties are, flat-footed, high to low type players. And if you turn his tape on, the first thing that jumps out, I mean, he will come strike you. I mean, he comes downhill, he can run. He's got legitimate track times in the 100, and it shows up on tape. The thing he shows too is great. He has great contact speed, and people use the word contact speed, and really you ask what it is and how do you measure contact speed. And I've been privileged to work for a coach many years ago that talked about contact speed, and he talked about when you're running full speed, if you run 4.6 and you hit somebody, you're still running 4.6. You're not running 4.6 and you hit them at 4.8 or 4.9. And if you run 4.9, you hit somebody at 4.9. And whatever he runs his 40 at, he's going to hit your butt at the exact same thing. So he's got really good contact speed. Could he play the nickel position for us? I think that's up in the air. I think we could see if he possibly could, but I like him at safety and coming downhill and striking guys and helping to add to the run support from that end, and as well as being able to cover the passes on the back end.
Time for a few more.
Brent, I know, who offers a kid and how many stars they get isn't everything, and there were some kids that didn't have a ton of that, didn't always have a ton of other power conference offers. I'm curious just kind of what you make of that in terms of how you see your guys.
Yeah, it's so you can say stars don't matter or rankings don't matter, and in the scheme of things, what really does matter then? So I mean, there's going to be a constant debate about that all the time. Okay, I mean, I'm sure Kelly can probably tell you statistically exactly what he's done with those things and whatnot, but majority of those guys that are the 5-star players, they probably have more success than guys that aren't. That's the way it is. But in the situation we're in right now, the most important thing was the evaluation, right? Evaluating the right guys to be able to come in and to fit the needs, whether it was a developmental position for us, a guy that could come in and be a quicker person to get on the field in an immediate need spot. So, the evaluation is the most important. Now, when that evaluation and rankings, when that ends up kind of crossing paths, it does, and you're probably going to get written more about it, write more about it. But at the end of the day, we're going to do our best to evaluate the best guys in our program. If it ends up matching up to rankings and that and whatnot, then I guess it does. So, but I'm not going to sit here and say, well, those are and give you the stats about the 2-star guys that go to the league and all those things. I'm not going to do it. I mean, that's for everyone else to debate. For us to debate is bringing the right guys into the program and developing them the right way throughout the year, in the course of the year, and then let's see, 2-3 years from now where those guys end up being for us. Hopefully 1 year on a lot of them.
I thought one position where you guys really needed some help is wide receiver. You got a speed guy and then a very solid all-around guy. Can you kind of talk about just what you want to see from that position going forward and trying to find some playmakers on the outside?
Yeah, I think that's the name of the game. I mean, receivers are, this day and age, you're not signing receivers and they're not coming to to go block. So receivers, they want the ball in their hand, and that's what we want to do. And offensively, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to get the ball to them, whether it's sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone, stretching the field, from width and horizontally and vertically. So you got to have guys that can make plays with the ball in their hand. You got to have guys that can take the top off the defense. You got to have guys that have that straight line speed, guys that have wiggle, a good mix of it all. But yeah, you want playmakers. And how do you judge if a guy's a playmaker? Well, what does he do with the ball in his hand? They're not always playing receiver. I mean, the one position, and when you evaluate high school players, most of the time the best player is going to be, if you look over every team in the country, it's probably going to be the quarterback. So a lot of times great receivers come from that quarterback position. A lot of them don't play defense in high school. It's kind of the way it is. It's like the Allen Iverson effect. So. But you want playmakers. You want guys that want the ball in their hand, and when you get those types of guys, they become special to your team because, they're not just catching the football and making plays and, attempting to score touchdowns. They affect the way defenses play on offense. Now it changes up the way you call a football game. It changes up the way that you're able to run the football. It pulls those safeties, out of the support elements. When now you have to put 2 guys on the receiver. Now it really cleans things up. So it's a huge part of the team that we've worked really hard to address, and we will continue to work hard at addressing that spot among others.
Anything else?
I guess I'll ask the non-recruiting thing real quick. Can you talk about Buster and kind of how that came together, and also the decision to keep your defensive staff intact as well?
I think at the end of the day, as coaches, we're judged as our resumes. We're judged by the way you play on the field, and they say your resume is your film. You've heard that for years and years as a coach. So that's a big part of the evaluation that takes place when you look at coaches is the film. How your position group plays, and the way the same things that you hire a coach on, being a good person, being able to be a great teacher, and then be a great recruiter, and then motivating your team to play hard. Right? That's the same things that we're all judged on. Is our ability to do those things. So that was a big factor in a lot of the decisions made. Then as far as the offensive side, we wanted to, or I know exactly what offense that we are going to run here, exactly what is needed to run, and it was a lot of people talked to, a lot of different ways of going about it, and to finally come to the point and find the person that is able to run that offense with input from other people on the staff, input of everyone on the staff, run the offense that we want to, at the same time has experience at doing it different ways at different places, has been a part of championship teams and understands what it takes to be on a championship team and to bring that mindset to continue to add to the rest of the guys in the room with that.
Okay, that's it. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, guys.
Is that it?